Hello everyone, this is Nabil from Future Media Hubs, your host for today's podcast. Today we'll be talking about AI, and more specifically about how media can support young people in the age of AI. Did you hear? According to a BBC News article, AI could replace the equivalent of 300 million full-time jobs. It could replace a quarter of work tasks in the United States and Europe, but it may also mean new jobs and a productivity boom. But first, a bit more about Future Media Hubs. Future Media Hubs is an international network of over 50 public and commercial media organizations that focuses on innovation through collaboration and knowledge sharing. At Future Media Hubs, we have a group focusing on the next generation and how to reach them as a media company. I am myself a young university student wondering about how AI will impact my future work experiences. That is why I have invited Matthew Blakemore, a media professional with experience in AI, to share his insights on how young people can prepare for this exciting future. We'll explore how AI can be a powerful tool for collaboration and innovation, especially within media organizations. Hello, Matthew. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. It's certainly a very interesting topic, and there's a lot of things to dive into. So definitely looking forward to discussing it with you today.
Could you shortly introduce yourself to our audience?
Of course, yeah. So I'm Matthew Blakemore, as has already been stated, and I've been working in the media and entertainment sector for the past 5 years, and with AI in the creative industries for over a decade. So a lot of experience within AI, and certainly done a lot of work with Future Media Hubs, and some of the exciting projects that they have going on are certainly worth mentioning during this podcast.
Amazing, thank you. To kick things off, can you share a fun or surprising way AI is already being used in the media industry today?
Of course. I think most people are aware, obviously, after the launch of ChatGPT, people were really keen to try using that tool to enhance their productivity in media and entertainment organizations. And I think what we've seen in some of the media and entertainment organizations is quite a wide use of that for refining email responses and things like that. What I'm more excited about is the use of these new video generative tools, so text to video, where we've seen, OpenAI have recently launched some videos of Sora being tested by professional directors. And obviously I think most of us will have seen on LinkedIn and other platforms the video of the yellow balloon head. And if you haven't already, I recommend you go on YouTube and you check it out, because that film was largely made just using the video output from Sora. And it's really impressive because for the first time it really demonstrates the capabilities of this technology to provide almost a new media format for creating content. And obviously these tools at this stage are right at the beginning of their journey. So we're going to see big improvements. And I think that also we're going to see an aggregation of lots of different types of AI tools. So there are different AI tools for different purposes when it comes to video creation. There are tools that can improve the consistency of character. So if I put myself in a film, they can make it easier for me to have a consistent face throughout the films, for example. I think we're going to see an aggregation of all of those tools into platforms that allow creatives to really express themselves in new ways. And I think the media and entertainment industry is just getting their heads around all of this new technology because it's come at such a pace, and are really exploring how it can be utilized.
Super interesting. Nice to hear that how AI is used and evolving more in the media industry. It will definitely be a big part of the future of media, so it will especially influence the younger generations, since they are the ones getting ready to work soon in media. I recently read a study from Marketplace where young people can be burdened by fears of navigating a complex online world and the pressure to succeed in a competitive environment, which can be AI in the media. Matthew, in your experience, how concerned are young people about AI replacing their jobs?
Really important question, and very relevant as well, because I've actually just been conducting a creative industries AI study that questioned over 1,000 people in the creative industries about artificial intelligence, their perceptions of the technology, and also their concerns. And one of the questions focused specifically on job displacement and job security and how people felt about AI and whether they felt it was there to empower them in their role or to replace them. And the interesting thing is that most of the junior roles, actually 100% of people within junior roles felt threatened by AI. Whereas people in senior roles felt that it was there to assist them with their daily tasks. I think 72% of people overall were very positive about AI, but it was that demographic, which is largely younger people who are currently, at the beginning of their careers in those junior roles, that feel most threatened by this new technology. And I think that's something for companies to be aware of, because at the end of the day, that generation will be running these companies in several years' time. And so if they feel threatened, it's more likely that those people will go elsewhere and will potentially try other sectors where they feel more secure in their roles, unless we can do more as an industry to really make them feel welcomed and that they're not under threat from this technology, but instead empowered by it. And a lot of that comes from the top. So what we need to see is C-level really expressing the fact that they're not looking to utilize this technology to replace people, but actually to increase productivity, to increase the creative opportunities for people within the industry.
Like you said earlier, that younger generation should not be afraid of AI replacing their jobs. It will create more productivity and so on. But what do humans bring that artificial intelligence does not effectively?
I think the core message from Microsoft at Cannes Film Festival was that AI on its own is not creative, and that humans bring that level of creativity to those tools and get the most out of them. And I think that's the core message that people need to be aware of. What I would say is I'd be slightly hesitant to say that young people should not be afraid of AI replacing their jobs, because, as I say, there are certain C-level that see this as a way of replacing them. And what we need to do is really explain to the C-level that see AI in this way, that's not the best way forward. And there's a lot of reasons why that's not the best way forward for society. But even for their business as a whole, if they start replacing the next generation with artificial intelligence, what are they going to do when they need managers, when they need people in the future who then won't have had the opportunity to work within their businesses, who won't have had the opportunity to be upskilled? And I think we could, have a significant brain drain if we're not careful within the media and entertainment sector. And so what we need to stop is C-level thinking about this in a short-term way and actually seeing AI as a positive thing that can enhance their staff and empower their staff rather than replace them. As I say, I think it's perfectly legit for young people to be concerned about artificial intelligence in this sector, and it's up to the C-level to really take the initiative and say, you know what, we're not going to be replacing young people with this tool, we're not going to be replacing our junior people. What we're going to be doing is empowering and upskilling them so that we can make the most of these tools.
Could you elaborate a bit more about this?
Yeah, sure. So I think, it's very easy when tools like this are developed that can increase productivity and that can be utilized in a way to take on more of the admin tasks. For an industry that has suffered quite a lot during the COVID pandemic, and that has suffered as well during the writers' strikes of late, to kind of opt for or look at it in a way of seeing, oh, you know what, we can cut costs, we can save money. But actually that's a really short-termism view. And it's not good for the industry. In many ways, the industry has suffered of late from short-termism in terms of its thinking around streaming platforms as well. We've seen companies plow billions into streaming platforms, which was not always a logical decision. When they now are in a position where they're having to try and recoup some of the money that they in many ways have wasted trying to compete with the likes of Netflix and others. And I think that realistically, they need to think about the fact that the people in the junior roles right now, as I say, are the leaders of tomorrow. And if they abandon them, they will go to other sectors, and the creative industries and the media and entertainment sector will suffer. And so the key thing is about C-level actually taking responsibility for the next generation, taking them under their wing, being very clear that they're not going to be replaced by this new technology, and that they are seen as valued assets to the industry and to their business.
That makes a lot of sense. So young people should focus on developing their creative thinking skills. For young people starting out, what other key skills will be in demand in an AI-powered workplace?
I think something that's undervalued right now, but is going to become increasingly important, is adaptability. Young people are going to be entering a workspace where they are going to have to adapt at a pace that I don't think any other previous generation has had to do. The pace of the technology is evolving at the moment is unprecedented, and you really need to have the mindset that when you enter a role, within 12 months it may be completely different to when you start it. And I think that that mentality is something people are going to have to get used to. But if there's any generation that can be adaptable, it's Generation Z, who have grown up with this technology and have grown up with using loads of new platforms. So I'm confident they'll cope with it, but it's something that isn't really taught at university. They can't teach you to be adaptable. It's just something you've got to do to be able to succeed in this new world.
Okay, very interesting point. So you should need to be adaptable and be able to navigate in any situations. It is not something you are taught in the university. Maybe university should consider of putting this in their curriculum about teaching students how to be adaptable. But now I would like to go back to media organizations. How do you think media organizations can create opportunities for young creators to collaborate on and showcase AI-powered content?
I think that it's really interesting how a lot of media and entertainment businesses now are kind of looking at the creation of content in slightly different ways to how they've traditionally done. And what I mean by that is, if we look at the likes of Moonbug Entertainment, who've done extremely well, what they do is they look at successful YouTube channels. So people who've gone out, they've created their own content, they've created brilliant content that is attracting a large audience, and then they acquire that content and support those creators. And I think with these new AI tools, there's going to be a lot more people who are now able to create new exciting content and build their own audiences. And really, media and entertainment companies need to start thinking about how they can engage with those creators, maybe who've already created successful programming online, and acquire that or support them so that they can share it on their media and entertainment platforms as well. So it's not just about them using these tools to create programming internally, which I'm sure they will, but it's also about them looking a little bit more externally as these tools democratize creativity and democratize the ability of people to create really impressive content.
Those are all fantastic ideas, Matthew. It is clear that media organizations have a real responsibility to empower young people and help them prepare for the future of AI. How can media companies make accessible, engaging tools for those with limited exposure?
So I think a lot of it comes down to upskilling as well. So they can certainly create tools to enhance people's understanding of artificial intelligence and to give them almost a foot in the door. We've seen a lot of broadcasters have implemented their own small language models which communicate internally with staff in the way that those broadcasters kind of see their brand and their voice being communicated. So they tailor a small language model to really work for the broadcaster and for the business. But actually, yeah, I think what it comes down to really is this upskilling piece more than the tools themselves about getting people involved in AI, because the tools themselves are going to become easier and easier for people to use. At the moment, I'm sure you've heard of prompt engineering and other methods for engaging with these tools, and sometimes you have to understand how to download various applications and access the tools through them rather than through a very nice user interface. In the future, people are going to have really nice user interfaces to engage with the likes of Midjourney and other tools. And so from a broadcaster perspective, it's about getting their staff ready for that change and ready for for what's coming, really. And there still is an opportunity to do that. It's not too late for them to invest in upskilling, and it's not too late for them to invest in their staff's understanding of these tools. Because, as I say, over time, as they become easier and easier to use, they will become more and more important within the media and entertainment sector.
Okay, I get it. It is really important to media companies upscaling and enhance their AI understanding to engage younger audiences. When you talk about using any powerful technology, there are always the ethical considerations. How can we ensure that AI is used responsibly in the media industry?
Very, very tricky question to respond to for several reasons, and I'll explain. Firstly, the idea of ethical usage of AI is evolving. If you asked me this question 6 months ago, there was real pressure on AI companies who were using artistic works without licensing them from creatives to train their models. And they were being called unethical and that they were stealing works. Now, what we've seen from a legislative perspective so far is that those companies actually have not really faced any accusations of unlawful activity. In the US, for example, the courts seem to be siding with AI companies, suggesting that they are, their models are creating brand new works from using this training data, and they're not reproducing the artistic works of the past, meaning actually it's not damaging that particular artist's reputation or their income. And that's the argument that has prevailed in the courts so far. And then also something that's happened very recently that has really changed my perspective or my view on this is it came out that Adobe, so it was a report in Bloomberg, Adobe, who have been presenting themselves as a very ethical business and saying that they only use licensed content, actually, it turns out they've been using images generated by Midjourney to train their models. And the challenge with that is that Midjourney is one of those companies that have used artistic works without licensing them from creatives to train their models. So, in fact, Adobe are saying we don't use artistic works from creatives to train our models without licensing it, which is a true statement. However, they are using images that they have generated from a model that does do that to train their models. And so you don't even need the original creative's work now to train a model. You can train a new model from a generative model that already it has done the dirty work, as it were. And so I think actually when I see online these arguments that, creatives should be paid up front, I feel like the horse has bolted. We've already lost that battle. That creatives are not going to be fairly remunerated up front, because even if legislation came in tomorrow to say you can't use creatives' works to train these models anymore, the models that already exist will simply be used to create new imagery that can then be used to train the new models, which will not be the original creatives' works, if that makes sense. So the way I think the industry needs to focus, and where we need to focus on ethical and responsible now, is how we can ensure that creatives are remunerated from the output. And the way that I think that it can be, they can be remunerated from the output is actually in the prompts themselves. So if I say that I want to create an artwork in the style of Pablo Picasso, for example, that should mean or trigger a premium prompt, which would mean that the Pablo Picasso Foundation received 10p for that, for me using their name within that prompt, because effectively it is then a premium prompt that mentions a particular artist, and the response from the model will use some of the stylistic representations from that artist to create the new image. So I think that there are ways in the output of the models that we can actually ensure that the AI companies don't lose out, so they still get their monthly subscription, but that the artists and the creatives actually still are able to generate revenue from these models as well. But as I say, I think the arguments around what is responsible and ethical from an input perspective, unless you want to take on the courts, which is a very expensive and probably a long-term activity that probably won't lead to anything useful, I think we should all be focusing in the creative industries on how creatives can be remunerated from the output. And that really is where I think the responsible and ethical arguments should currently sit. And that's where the industry currently is.
Absolutely. It is true that AI can also have the potential to be strength for good. Besides mentioning about paying artists for their artwork when using AI, can you share some examples of how AI being used to address social challenges in the media world?
Yeah, I mean, so I've kind of pointed out something that Adobe have done, which is a little bit questionable. So I'm now going to actually advocate for what Adobe have done in another aspect, because what they have done, which is very positive, is they have understood that what creatives need is an aggregation of new technology within existing tools they're already using. So what they have done, incorporating AI into Photoshop and into Adobe Premiere, for example, is a clear path forward for other brands as well to actually incorporate AI into tools that people use day to day, that people find convenient, so that they can then actually speed up some of the stuff they're doing, and they can use these new tools to enhance what they're doing. And I think that is a responsible and ethical way of implementing these tools, because it means that it's not just a case of Matthew's an AI expert, so he understands where to go for all these different tools. It's a case of, you know what, these are creative people, they're using these tools on a day-to-day basis. How can they utilize it? Because at the end of the day, and this argument is made all the time, so apologies for everyone who's heard this before, but you're likely not to be replaced by AI, but replaced by someone who understands and utilizes AI if you don't. And I think that, you know, we can make it easier and easier, and we have a responsibility as an industry to make it easier for people to access the tools, because at the end of the day, a creative's job should not be to hunt down the best AI technology. It should be that the best AI technology is put in front of them and given to them so they can get the most out of it. And I think that's a responsibility of the AI industry as well, to make it as accessible as possible for people.
Okay, quite interesting. If I understand correctly, media companies should incorporate tools in program so that people can use them on daily basis. People should not be afraid of AI replacing their jobs, but they should be afraid of people who can use AI in a creative way.
Yeah, so they should be more concerned about people who understand AI replacing them than the AI replacing them on their own. As I said earlier, there are some C-level who currently hold a bit of a difficult view when it comes to using AI technologies to replace people. But in the majority of cases, it's going to be people who understand how to use these tools, or who embrace these tools, that will be at a significant advantage when it comes to jobs than those that don't. And so that's just something for people to be aware of, and it's something that people can really work quite hard on to ensure that they stay ahead. But what I was saying around media and entertainment is the media and entertainment industry should really learn from the likes of Adobe in terms of how they've integrated AI tools in their workflows, in their tools, to make it really accessible and easy for people to utilize them. Because at the end of the day, as I say, a creative's job should not be to hunt down the AI tools that are useful. It should be a case of the AI tools that are useful are put in front of them in an environment they're already using, so that they can actually adopt them and use them in a simple way. And I think that's really a big responsibility now for the AI industry to make these tools more accessible.
To wrap this up, any last thoughts or advice for media organizations looking to engage youngsters with AI?
Yeah, so I guess key message. I was very surprised with the creative industry's AI study results that showed that 100% of junior employees are worried and feel threatened by AI and feel that they're going to be replaced by AI. That is not a healthy environment for people to be working in within the media and entertainment sector, and it's actually quite a damning view, to be honest, and it suggests at this point that C-level are not doing enough to convince those employees that they're valued and that they are the future of the media and entertainment sector. And if we're not careful, we're going to lose a lot of talent from the media and entertainment sector because people feel not secure in their roles. And we don't want a brain drain in the sector. We've already gone through a lot of really difficult times. And I think that the next generation coming through are just as important as every other previous generation too. So yes, there are new AI tools. Yes, it's exciting. Yes, they can empower people, but don't view them as a way to replace staff. Review them as perceive them as a way of actually increasing productivity and potentially generating more revenue to make up for all the billions lost in the streaming wars and things. So I think that's really the message I want to get across. You know, don't see these tools as an easy route to saving money. See them as a way of generating money.
Okay, these are great concrete insights for media professionals that are looking to attract young audiences. Media organizations should make clear that these AI tools are there to help with your productivity and not to be replaced by them. Thanks, Matthew, for your time for this podcast. This has been a fascinating discussion about the future of AI in the media and the role young people can play in shaping it.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it. It's a fascinating discussion, and I'm sure we'll have more in the future as well.
If our audience has any questions, how can they reach you?
So they can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to answer questions there. Or if they email me at Matt, so MATT, at aicaramba.co.uk, I'd be happy to respond there as well.
Okay, great. Just connect him on LinkedIn or send him an email and you will be in touch. Thank you to our listeners for joining us. I hope you gained some valuable insights into how the media can support young people in the age of AI. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter and to follow us on LinkedIn to stay updated about Future Media Hub's activities and projects. Until next time.